All right, let's get this show on the road. InfoSec versus Infotech. This is our deeper dive series. So, in the big webinar, everyone here has probably seen the big webinar, and it changes constantly. So, if you've seen it before, there's usually new information in the next one that you see. In fact, we've got one this week that national one that we're doing that'll be quite a bit different. Well, quite a bit different than what anyone else is saying. Anyway, one of the topics that I always talk about is stressing the difference between an IT company or your IT staff and their duties and objectives and what their job is relationship to the company, and where a security specialist or a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, why their job is different from an IT. And it doesn't seem like it would be. I mean, you can easily see where the chief financial officer's job is different than the chief marketing officer. But to most people, InfoSec or security is a subset of IT, but it's not. It's actually a specialty within the security industry. Okay? So it's coming at it from a whole different perspective. I really, I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about a good analogy, but maybe it's like the difference between a neurologist and a neurosurgeon. They both deal with the nerve and the spinal cord primarily, or at least nerves, right? Nerves and nerves and brain. But neurologist by no means tries to physically fix something, and the neurosurgeon does not pretend to know how the brain necessarily is mapped and diseases of the brain that can be treated. That's not a neurosurgeon's job or objective. And they usually, those two they're not the same person. They don't get the same training or anything. So perhaps IT and IS are something similar. So we got the little divers there. So I think that means it's time to go to the next slide. So another thing that everyone sees is I do this busting of myths, right? And the very last myth that I bust is this one. The myth that cybersecurity is an IT issue, and the mistake that many people do of telling their IT staff or telling their IT company, it's just go out, we need to get better security. I listened to this webinar of this Tom dude, and he said that we need this, this, and this, and what we have now is totally inadequate. So get us fixed up. Well, first of all, you're going to the same person that fixed you up, so to speak, the first go around. That should be the first warning flag. Because what we're talking about is basic security principles. But the second thing is to remember you're asking a neurosurgeon to treat you for muscular sclerosis. That's not something that's treatable by surgery. It's asking let me think here, it's asking your hematologist to treat you for cancer. Arguably, there's some overlap there. Now, you do see those in the same body sometimes, often, actually. But they really and truly are two specialties. And if you're the type of person that thinks, well, man, I've got an excellent car mechanic, but I've heard this guy down the street does a really good job with repairing Honda lawnmowers, and I bet he's an expert at Honda lawnmowers, or I've heard he's an expert at Honda lawnmowers. Why in the world would you confuse either one of those? Or why would you hire a Daytona 500 pit crew member to change the oil on your car? There is subtle yet important differences. So starting with this myth, we bust it during many of our webinars. And I go over this, just like I've described how, MSSP, managed security service provider, or the CISO, or basically cybersecurity is put under the IT. Well, now, and in fact, by 100% of companies globally, or globally, as I put it here, will have a chief information security officer, and he or she will be a member of the C-suite with direct communication to the CEO on equal footing with the CIO, CFO, COO. Finance is going to say it's too expensive. Operations says it's too much hassle. Marketing just says, well, let everybody have access to all of our sales data. And the IT guy says, look, I can't do that. I'm going to get inundated with help desk calls. But security people or an MSSP like us, we've got to have a direct path to the CEO to say, this is the risk. First of all, me and the chief financial officer talked about this, and we're at loggerheads. You've got to understand everything from both sides. And here's why we have to afford it. And he's going to tell you why we can't afford it. You make the call, I'll make it happen. Finance guy's going to do the same thing. But if that CEO or that head honcho doesn't know what the risk is, the company is not being run correctly. It's not being properly managed, and it's really not being led properly. And that means leadership from the green squares as well as that orange square. Okay. So let's take a look at the fundamental differences here between information technology and information security. Okay. IT deals with deploying the technology that will help the running and growth of the business. Okay. IS deals with security related issues, and it ensures that the technology is secure and protected from breaches and attacks and things like that. That's the basic fundamentals. But I thought that something I've never done before is to compare and contrast. Okay. So I got a few slides on that. So IT ensures that the hardware, software, and other network components remain functional. IS deals with protecting the data and assets. IS really doesn't care if it's functional. That's not part of, yeah, of course they do. Everybody's on the same team working toward the same goals, but their first and foremost thing is security. And if it means making it non-functional to make the security adequate, or if it's under attack, shut it down. If we're under attack and we're unable to stop it right now, just shut it down and let the fallout go where it goes. But because I guarantee you that if we keep letting this attack occur, it's going to be worse than the outage that we're going to suffer through. The loss of productivity will be worse from a dollar standpoint, from a customer relationship standpoint, from a PR standpoint. If we don't shut everything down, it's going to be worse. IT is like, keep it running, keep it running, keep it running. Okay. Another one, IT is responsible for hardware, software, and new technology. Okay. IS is responsible for system processes and risk posed by end users. Risk posed by end user. That is letting in ransomware. Over 90% of the breaches are caused by non-malicious insiders. They are conned or tricked into letting hackers in, or letting the hackers attack in. And so IS establishes policies and procedures and processes such as continuous security awareness training. That's an IS responsibility. It's not an operations. It does sound like it's operations or HR, but only a security specialist knows what's the best security training, security awareness training, because the threats continually evolve for the very same reason that they're best at defending against the threats and deciding what the best tools and other controls need to be implemented. They're also the best at selecting security awareness training because they keep up with it. It is impossible for operations, especially, but IT has to keep up with networking and software and new technology. That is a fast moving field, and security by itself, especially InfoSec, is even faster moving than IT because it's a cops and robbers thing, right? Technology is always increases in war. The same thing with cyber warfare. So IT implements controls over hardware and software. They decide if we're going to use Microsoft Office. They decide we're going to standardize on, oh, I don't know, Cisco switches and Dell servers and Dell desktops and Dell or Apple laptops or Microsoft Surface, whatever those platforms are. They decide what those are to minimize help desk calls, minimize end user frustration, to minimize downtime. They have done due diligence, and this is the control that we're going to place. We're not going to let you put your own software on there, this, that, and the other, because that decreases the reliability of the devices by letting people just use it as their own computer. Okay. IS, on the other hand, identifies which controls to implement and takes and tests controls to ensure they're working properly. So what's a good example of that? A phishing simulation is a really good example of that. It tests everyone's ability to recognize an email that possibly contains a threat and react accordingly. Okay? Now, everyone on this call has heard me talk about controls, administrative, technical, and even physical controls. In the InfoSec world, the majority of it is technical and administrative controls, and the most important of those is the administrative controls. So we identify what the password policy is going to be, the password expiration policy is going to be, which incidentally, IronTech doesn't have one. We commonly don't expire passwords. Topic for another day, but it actually makes everyone more secure in your organization. So these are, you've got to think of IT as the guy that makes the car run. IS is the people that make it safe. Maybe. I'm going to come up with a good analogy one of these days. Oh, you guys chime in if you want to on chat, or we can even open the mics up. We got a small group today. Now, this one's kind of a surprising because software patches and firmware updates are so important in security. So it surprises some people to find out that IT is responsible for patches and security updates. And those also include feature updates as well. But once again, they're responsible for the infrastructure, and that's just good infrastructure practices, right? IS keeps up to date on new threats and cyber attacks that emerge daily. We say this is the way we'd like to see patches go, and IT says we can't patch every time one comes out. It needs to be tested. And they go, I go, well, how long is it going to take to test it? Well, we can usually get it tested in 60 days. I'll say that's not good enough. I'll give you a week, but I may come to you and say, you got to do it right now. We had that happen. The whole world had that happen 3 weeks ago with Exchange servers, and we still don't know what the fallout of that's going to be. And we had a bunch of Exchange servers, and we had 2 or 3 clients say you can't update right now because it takes them offline. It's only for a few minutes if everything goes according to plan, but this was an untested patch. Fortunately, I don't think but only 1 or 2 people had difficulties, and it wasn't too much trouble, but we had no choice. Every single minute those unpatched exchange, literally, we weren't overreacting. The feds, the CISA part of Department of Homeland Security sent out a notice and said immediately, in all caps, immediately patch all Exchange servers. So, like I said, I'm going to go to the IT guy. You're in charge of patches. We can't wait to test this. We're going to rely on the backup that you monitor, right? You've got a backup. So hopefully they're monitoring backups. If something goes catastrophically wrong, we'll restore from backup and we'll take the heat. But if we keep that Exchange server running right now, there's no telling what harm could come to this company, the customers, the the patients, big hospital, hundreds or thousands of employees. There's no telling what harm could come of all of that. It is by far the worst of two choices. So patch now. I get to make that call. If you disagree, let's go talk to the CEO and they can make the call. I'll sleep at night if he says don't patch. But he's the guy that's going to be on the 6 o'clock news if he doesn't make the call. Let's go convince him. You and me, we're both grown-ups. We've both got a job to do, but this is my call. I mean, this is what I want to do. The metrics, KPIs, key performance indicators, are business intelligent. A CIO, a couple of the things that they measure to see how well they're doing in their job is what's the uptime of everyone's systems and networks and servers and all of this, and what's your response time to mitigate and remediate problems. How long does it take you guys to acknowledge there's a problem and open a ticket on it, actually do something about it, and then to actually fix it, right? Because doing something about it is different than fixing, because you may have to order a part or it takes a lot of diagnostic time. So the quicker you respond to it and assess the issue, you can't do anything about shipping dates usually. Yeah, you can overnight, but if you're in New York and the part's in Los Angeles, there's nothing you can do to get it there in a minute or two. If it's a hardware part, it's not going to happen. But the sooner you diagnose it, then the quicker the fix comes in. So response time is very, very important on that. Now, the KPIs for IS is how many times did you prevent a possible attack? So, or what's our overall company score on security awareness training? Or there's some others. I didn't even think about it when I built this slide. But basically, IS recommends and prioritizes action plans and solutions to mitigate risk. It's not really our IS job to know about or even care if a drive in a RAID array failed. Now, it is our job to know if a database was corrupted by a Trojan and then respond to that. But the day in, day outs of keeping that network and those servers and everything up and running is not an InfoSec job. And then finally, I think this is the last one. IT follows the fix it first, buy the best of breed hardware and software and so on and so forth, that minimize downtime in the long run, because that's their job. In the IS, whoops, I knew I had double clicks in there. IS says secure it first. Above all else, secure it first. Sorry about that. I don't do that very often, Kenzie.
Yeah, it's rare.
Yeah, secure it first. That's it. Secure it first. Secure it first. Secure it first. And we have these conversations with CEOs, presidents, owners, directors, whatever the head honcho title is. We have it, we go, oh, okay, well, we got to put multi-factor on remote access. Well, that's going to cost money, and that's another piece of credentials that I got to put on a piece of software. I don't care. It's not that big of a hassle. You get used to it. I don't like it, but I'll let people slide. We don't require our users to use a password manager. I think it's foolish. I think it's short-sighted. Or maybe I just haven't done a good enough job of explaining why they need it. Might be all my fault. But in the case of multi-factor authentication, you absolutely have to have it on installed and deployed properly for remote access. Because of COVID, there was we saw a tenfold increase over a 2 week period, tenfold, 1,000% increase on attempted remote access attacks on our network during the month of March 2020. And at the same time, we're deploying, our clients are saying work from home, work from home, work from home, and we're deploying hundreds, literally hundreds of remote access for their workers. And they're saying we got to have this as soon as possible because Bill can't work and Susie can't work from home. If you guys don't get this turned on, do it as quick as you can. Uh-uh. We'll do it as secure as we can. We'll do it quick, but that's not our priority. We're going to do it secure first and second as quick as we can. So anyway, secure it first. Two different things. Fix it first, secure it first. Oh, IT in that same environment with the remote access, they will get it out, get remote access out. And I'm not saying all will, okay? There's some out there that understand MFA. They have a little experience with it. If they've got a lot, then they might know exactly what to do. But what they'll do, because it's fix it first, they'll get remote access up and running, and then they'll come back around when they have time and put multi-factor authentication on it. Well, we already saw a tenfold increase on remote access attacks before most people were even thinking about remote access. So the fix it first in that approach would open your company up to a lot of vulnerabilities and attacks. All right. So why do we do that? This is something else IT does not do. And if you want to do security, you have to follow the NIST cybersecurity framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. IT touches on some of that. That's why they work on backups, and they do detection, but not for security anomalies. Of course, they respond, but not to security anomalies. And they protect. They put firewalls in. The actual putting in of the firewall is not necessarily an IS guy or gal, but the administrative controls that tell that firewall what to let in and what to let or keep out, that falls under information security. Goes back to one of the earlier slides. And then identifying what to protect that's a security deal, not an IT deal. You don't have to know TCP/IP and be able to calculate a subnet to know that the finance files need to be protected a lot better. Okay. All that other stuff, calculating subnets and knowing what your gateway IP is and DNS servers and all these networking things, that's a little bit outside of IS. We just know that that's going to be taken care of by another specialist that works in it day in and day out. Honestly, I've forgotten some of that stuff over the past few years of getting into security, because it's a different way of looking at things. And some people are born with it. I mean, it's like if you like to watch boost movies or heist movies, like Ocean's 11 or something, and you go, oh man, how did they do that? That is so cool how they stole that. And then you look up and you go, I wonder if I could bypass that motion detector, right? It's not that I think that way. I've done it all my life. It's not that I'm going to do it. I might do it for fun, kind of like Thomas Crown did in the movie, but I probably shouldn't have said that. But it's not because of financial gain or to necessarily be malicious. but it's just a different way of thinking. Like, okay, I put all these security things in place. What did I miss? How can we make it better? And if you don't think that way as an InfoSec defensive white hat hacker, because those are the good guys, there's hackers on both sides, right? White hat hackers are thinking the exact same things as black hat hackers, but instead of offensive attack, they're thinking defensive attack. How would that black hat guy, how would he get in here, even though I've put everything I could think of? That's where penetration testers come in. Then they're going to actually try it. And those are the best ones to have on your side. So you don't have to take all my word for it. This is our industry knows this. Our industries know this and understand this. My job today is to hopefully shed some light on that and to convince you guys that this is the way things are done the right way. Don't just offload it to IT. Companies like us make IT better, and IT makes us better. We complement each other because we have two different jobs to do. We love to have an IT staff on site, boots on the ground, whether they're on the payroll or it's outsourced, it doesn't matter to us. And I have yet to come across an IT guy that doesn't welcome our expertise on what is the best multi-factor authenticator software out there. Or what do you mean there's something better than AV? What do you mean we can monitor anything on the network like a industrial control system device or SCADA device? What do you mean you don't need an operating system? How do you monitor that? Well, that's where security specialists come in. So anyway, I found this video. It's not my words. It's two people. One of them is an IT and the other is an IS person. So let's watch this. Whoops. Wow. There we go.
I would say that information security and information technology are both integral to a business's success.
The IT side, we're more focused on getting things to work, be fast, be efficient. Information security is more concerned about safety, security.
I would say the biggest difference between information security and information technology has to do with the way that information security professionals understand the requirements for compliance and the need for different policies to be put in place.
So IS keeps IT almost in check, I would say, because, like I said, our main goal is to get you up and running as smooth as possible, as fast as possible. IS's main goal is to keep you as secure as possible.
Information technology sets up the software that lets the business run, and information security makes sure that none of that information can be stolen or breached.
I mean, everyone has a computer, everyone sits down, logs in, does their job, but they don't realize on the back end the holes that the systems can have.
Federal regulations change, new patches are always pushed, security vulnerabilities are found every day. The professionals need to make sure that the network is maintaining its highest level of security.
You're muted, Tom.
I only got a minute and 3 seconds left. Anyway, I hope that made sense to everyone. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can open the mics up on this, but we're considering changing the format of this a little bit. Summer's coming up. I think people are a little burned out on webinars, and but we already know what topics we're going to talk about. So we may change it to once a month. We may change the format up a little bit. We're waiting on our studio to get set up, so we know we're going to use that in some form or fashion. And but if you've got any suggestions of things you would like to see, or just topics you'd like to see, or something that we've missed going into, maybe an email that Kinsey sent out that's kind of out of band, a blog topic that we've never covered in the on any of the webinars or anything else, we'd love to hear about it. And and if you got any questions about today's webinar, just speak up, drop it in the chat, raise your hand. Thank you, Mary.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's about time to do this. I think we're going to use this in other. So Mary said that this is in the top 3 most useful sessions we've had. So you guys know how to get rid of us. You guys know how to get in touch with us. So we will see you next time on the Deeper Dive.